Good evening and welcome to Four Lads Weekly Rangers podcast. It's Kenny and myself back again to discuss all the latest kind of Rangers news. I'm talking a wee bit, I think, more about individuals and going to the manager and things tonight. We did, of course, go live straight after the game on Saturday evening, which was brilliant, viewed by so many people. I think there was at one point nearly 3,400 people watching it, so it was incredible that you would tune in. So we love that. We love all the interaction. Yes, Dado Purcell Blue Boots. This is live. We are live. We don't normally go live, but everybody said we wanted live shows, Kenny, didn't they? So how are you, mate? Are you well?
I'm not bad, mate. Busy day at work. Just not long home. Grab my dinner on to do this. So looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah, okay. So look, good evening, everyone. Really appreciate everyone that's tuning in to join us on the weekly pod. Let's talk about Saturday, Kenny. We've obviously had a chance now to relive it, and you know it's not so fresh in our minds as such because we've had a few days to go over everything. Now that you've done that, what do you think again about Saturday's game?
First half was rotten. Really rotten, really poor first half. Second half was a bit better, mate, but defensively we are all at sea at times, and you can't keep playing games and having to score 3 and 4 goals to win every game, which is happening at the moment. So in that sense, I would look at it and say, look, we have to sort this out and look to show that defence up. And if we keep creating the amount of chances we are, Stevie, we'll have a decent enough end to the season, I would think.
Yeah, I was trying to think of this today because in my downtime today, we are really good going forward on Saturday. We created a hell of a lot of opportunities, but at the back, it was just an absolute free-for-all. So as much as we might create a lot of opportunities, we have to get that right at the back because Kenny, we've been 2-0 down in 4 of the last 6 games. And I think they said on Saturday now, for the first time since I think they said 1986, we've conceded 2 goals in the last 5 or 6 league games. And that's totally unacceptable. There's a lot of chain of thought to this, obviously, management upheaval and things like that. But personally, when it comes to Saturday, Kenny, in games like Dundee away, I just don't think we're built well enough and equipped well enough physically to handle going to these kind of places. There's no physicality, there's no dominance in that team. And I'll show you, or I'll say to you, in my opinion, just 2 examples of that, because in the very first seconds, Raskin gets caught with a ball in midfield. He's easily pushed off. Then Dundee go forward. We're wide open on the left-hand side. It goes to the corner. The corner's put in, and there's a kind of 50-50, and Tav's out muscled by striker who scores. And yeah, Cyriel Dessers did the same in the second half to Dundee defence. But we look at it from our point of view, I personally don't think that we've got the right kind of structural player to go to grounds like Dundee and things like that because we're not physical and we're not dominant enough.
Yeah, and you're spot on. The simple fact is, for us, Stevie, when you look at it and you're realistic about it, our squad's been built to play a European style of football, to play a European competition almost. And it doesn't matter. We touched on this on Saturday night, Stevie, that it's defending as a team that's for me is actually part of the problem. We're not physical enough anywhere in any area of the pitch. And, we can sit and blame the back 4 or the keeper or the back 5, if you want to call it that, week in, week out. But I think structurally, there's just something not right with us, Stevie. And we're far, far too easy. We've said this all season. We're too easy to play against. And, we discussed this on Saturday, but you actually said it as well, that, you were watching it through the cracks of your fingers every time Dundee went forward because you just felt that they were going to score. And it does need to be addressed. How we go about doing that, I don't quite know, Stevie, because it doesn't matter what the personnel is in that back line. we're losing goals, whether it's Proper or Renciala or Suter or Balogun in the back four, whether it's Yefty or Ridvan, Yilmaz at left back, whether it's Sterling or Tav at right back, it doesn't matter. We're losing goals all over the place. So it needs fixed. How you go about doing that between now and the end of the season, I'm not really sure. And I think come summer, we have big decisions to make in terms of building a squad that's going to be capable of playing domestic football, Steve. I really do.
Yeah, look, there's certainly a lot to do. There's a different kind of profile. I think that's fair. But let's focus a wee bit on individuals. And obviously, the biggest individual takeaway, I think, from Saturday is Cyriel Dessers. He is an enigma. He has it all at moments, and he has very little at others. He's up and down. Only Cyriel Dessers could do a Dennis Bergkamp receive like he did on Saturday in that first half with the most unbelievable skill, and then hit it straight at the goalkeeper. I like him because I root for the underdog, and at times he frustrates the life out of me. I said this morning, and I'll agree, and I'll stick with it, that because he's coming up for 31, Kenny, if we get a decent amount in the summer, I would look to move him on. But that's only because of the profile and what we need to do as a football club. There's a lot of interest in him after his European stuff, and I think that if we could get that kind of money that they're talking about, then I think we have to look at it. But I would look at that kind of money for Danilo, for any other player in the squad. It's not just a Cyriel Dessers thing, but because we're discussing him, I feel that it's relevant. But let's look a wee bit about his stats. Cyriel Dessers for Rangers played 100 games, 45 goals, 16 assists, 61 goal involvements. He's played over 6,100 minutes, and he's got a goal or assist every 100 minutes. He's I think he's fourth in the list, or he's third on the list of. There's Boyd, Arbaladze, Cyriel, and then Kamar Roof in terms of goals per 100.
Alfie was in front of him. Yeah,
I beg your pardon. So I think it's clear as day that he has got some major plus points. I think the issue is, let's look at this like a different way, and I certainly do. I tend to focus on what he doesn't do rather than what he does do. And I think the issue is that he does get into some good positions. I think you've got to give him credit for that. On Saturday, he got into good positions 12 times. He just unfortunately only converted one of them, didn't he? But it was a vital one. And here's what I really genuinely think when it comes to the big guy. And I'm going to point to a few things. Cyriel Dessers went clean through in the last minute against Queen's Park and made an absolute mess of it. He went one-on-one against Tottenham, made a mess of it. And that's not me trying to be harsh. I'm really not. My point is what I'm about to make. On Saturday, he went one-on-one loads of times where he's got time to think about it. See, when he doesn't have time to think about it, and I'll point to Fenerbahce away, where it's a quick touch round the goalie and put it in. And I'll point to Saturday's winning goal, which was an unbelievably good finish. Chests it down, finishes immaculate, by the way. What a finish it was. What a goal. Does everything right. His run, his chest, finish. See, when he doesn't have time to think about it, he is very valuable to this Rangers team.
The prime example of that is the goal at Old Trafford. Where he's got no time to think. He just spins, takes a touch, and absolutely leathers it into the bottom corner. And he's an enigma. He's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube when you're full of acid or something like that. It's unsolvable. And don't ask me how I know that. But it's just one of those kind of crazy things that when you look at him, and we've discussed this all season. Since we started this podcast, Stevie, we've been going on and on and on about this, that he has his limitations. We all know he has his limitations, but you can't argue with those stats. You can't actually argue he's got, 61 goal contributions in 100 games, and not all of them are starts. He's maybe about 80 starts, and it's a phenomenal return for a guy with clear limitations. The issue we have with him is exactly what you're saying. When it really comes to the crunch, Stevie, you can't trust them to deliver the way you kind of need them to. And that this is no slight on the guy, because I think if you've got him as your second or third choice striker, he's a great guy to have in your squad. I think we've just been slightly, last season was a great example of it, where we were slightly over-reliant on him because Danilo was injured, and can't even remember who else was in the squad last season. But we had injuries up front. Kamal Roof was another one, injured all the time. And when you become reliant on him, I think it's unfair to expect him to deliver every single week because of those limitations I'm talking about. And that's where I think if you could get the 4 million that you're talking about, £4.5 million, I with all respect to him at his age, I would be looking to move him on. But
that would be anyone in the squad, wouldn't it? Yeah, anyone in the squad that's 31, and you get offered prime value for him as a football club, we need to start accepting these bids and selling these players. So that's not just a Cyriel Dessers thing. And the reason I say that, Kenny, is because I don't want people thinking that we're saying just get rid of him for the sake of it. See if Cyriel was 27, 28 come the summer, I don't think we're having this discussion.
No, and I totally agree with you. And I think it's something over the months that we've discussed. And if you actually see what most clubs do, Stevie, to see those £2-3 million sales, they rack up if you can get them. And we need to start as a football club selling guys at the right time, which we just simply haven't done. And that more than anything else, with somebody at this age, by the time this season ends, he will be 31. And you've got to look at it and say, well, he's got 2 years left, I think. Is that correct? I think it's 2 years left in his contract. So therefore, you do look at it. It's a similar situation, different value possibly, but when Nico Raskin, 2 years left is at the time when you really have to look and decide and determine what you want to do as a football club in terms of rebuilding your squad and maintaining assets. And at 31, with all respect to Cyriel Dessers, the only way his value can go from there, if you keep him hold of him next season, is down. You can't expect the price to rise. So I would tend to agree with you, yeah.
Okay, the other big issue, I think this is also fair, and I think people would agree, personally wise, and I think it's worth pointing out as well before we go on to this, there's a lot of individual mistakes on Saturday, a lot. You could argue James Tavernier for the first goal. You could argue that Diamande, Raskin, Conor Barron all played well below their potential. You could argue that John Suter shouldn't have come out as rashly for the third goal when it breaks to Tiffany in the big hole that he'd left. He ran into. You could argue that Jeffy should defend that better. I think all of these are valid. I really do. Unfortunately, Kenny, we have to discuss Jack Butland because I really feel that Jack's form at the moment is an issue. He is, and I said a couple of months ago, I think prior to Manchester United, I think that I would stick with Jack, and I thought that he was just kind of going through a period of mistakes. Unfortunately, his period of mistakes, ironically, since he came back from his kind of injury at New Year, I think they've got rapidly more frequent. And not only are they more frequent, I think they've got worse. When you look at his mistake at Old Trafford, he punches the ball into his net. When you look at the mistake at Motherwell, the first one, that's a trickling shot, and he pushes it out and makes a right arse of it. Sunday's the same. I thought Saturday's mistake, I beg your pardon, Saturday's mistake was awful. And I go on about it all the time, and it's not meaning to, but the young fella plays and goals, and he's 7. And I go down, and I'm very harsh on him. And it's not like to myself in my own mind, not to him. To him, I'm very encouraging, but in my head, there's a ball goes in the top corner, and he's 7, and I'm going, why aren't you getting that? But that's just, that's me. The mistakes that Jack Butland is making are really basic. And I wonder now if we're at the point where they're becoming so frequent that we have to consider Jack's long-term future at Rangers, because this really isn't a blip. This is now becoming a normality for Jack. And I'm really worried about his form.
Yeah, but with good reason, because with all respect to the guy, because I do really like him as a keeper, but we have an issue with this now, because if you were to look back from, was it a Motherwell game last year in last March? I think it might have been. I can't remember, but he made a couple of mistakes in March last year. Then you've got the cup final last year, and from there on for him, it's not even been an average season. It's been poor, and the mistake on Saturday night is as bad as any I've seen from him all season. To the extent where I look at it and I genuinely don't know what he's doing. I've heard a lot of people discuss this over the last couple of days, and Dad was blue boots there, as you said it. His concentration levels, I think, have got to be questioned. He's saying his footwork's poor there. I tend to agree, but even his kicking is abject at the minute as well. It's really poor, and I do feel that when it comes to Jack Butland, I heard his interview or his press conference over the weekend there, and he's desperate to stay. He wants to stay, and I tend to agree. But what I would like to see happen come the summer is go and put the young boy Munn out on loan, keep Liam Kelly for your European squad, and bring another keeper in and get competition for him, because I've got a funny feeling that the lack of competition, the fact that he knows he's going to be playing every week, might be doing him a disadvantage. And I might be clutching at straws when I say that, Stevie, because I do really like Jack Butland as a goalie. But I said it again on Saturday night, mate, I think you could count 10 shocking errors this season that have directly led to goals from him. And that's not good enough. If you want to win competitions, mate, if you want to win leagues and cups, you can't have a keeper chucking them in like that. You just can't.
Do you think, and I think Raymond's got a point here, but I'll come to that just in a wee minute, Raymond. Do you think that when you look back last summer at Philippe Clement's comments, when he said that Jack Butland was the only one in the team that was irreplaceable, not selling him, wouldn't even consider any bids for him, do you think subconsciously that's caused an issue for Jack Butland straight away? Because Jack then knows he's irreplaceable. He's never getting dropped. His levels can go to whatever he thinks or wants. And I'm sure that he isn't intentionally doing this. But when you're told that you're safe and you're never getting dropped and things like that, Kenny, do you think that subconsciously has started Jack Butland off on this run? Because last season he was almost in the England squad. He was getting watched by Southgate. We were talking about millions of pounds worth of bids. And then all of a sudden, his form this season, it's just, I mean, he did make a few mistakes last year. You know, obviously cup final's a big one. But this season, it's just been frequent mistake after mistake. And, you know, even the if you look back at the St Mirren penalty, at St Mirren just around Christmas, New Year time in that defeat, he comes steaming out, and these are things that Jack wouldn't be doing before. But you know, that's just another one of the kind of mistakes he seems to be making. And I just think it's so frequent now that we've got a real issue.
Yeah, you've got a point. Maybe it is something to do with that, and that's kind of alludes to what I was just saying there, that I think he just knows he's going to play every week. It also can be could be something to do with the fact that when Southgate did come up 20 seconds in and he's lost a howler, and I don't know what it is with him at the minute. I genuinely, excuse me, feel that there is something really amiss with it, though, because it's far too common, it's far too consistently happening, Stevie, that it has to stop. And if it persists to the end of the season, then you're going to have to look at getting another keeper. He's going to have to pull a rabbit out of the hat here, mate. He really is.
Raymond makes a point. I want to discuss this a wee bit. Butland will improve a better defence in front of him and a more consistent defence. It's interesting because there's part of me that kind of agrees with that as well, because the central defence is a real issue. There's no commanding centre-back in there. I feel that John Souttar is a really good siege defender, as we've seen in Fenerbahce. when things are getting lobbed in top of him, I think John Souttar's really effective. I don't think John Souttar is used to being a defender that steps up and tries to intercept and things. I think he's a lot better when it's flung right in on top of him. That's why he does well for Scotland, I feel, as well. He had a really good game for Scotland out in Greece. Not so much at home, but out there, and that was that type of game. I feel that we need two dominant, commanding defenders when you look at the Hollander Goldson scenario of our last title win. I think that's a really interesting point, but it goes back to what we said, and there's no denying Rangers need serious work, but that central defence in the summer, that needs a hell of a lot of work. There needs at least two big commanding centre-halves, and if you think about the fact that Robin Propper, most likely, I feel that Robin Propper will be sold and will go back to Holland. That's my gut feeling on that. Balogun's not getting any younger. He's also, not able to do 2, 3, 4 games in a week. John Souttar's got that ongoing contract, isn't he? At the moment, all we can say is that is definitely running down. Clinton Inciala's just a young lad, full of promise, but, he's got a bit of a setback. So we don't have that centre-back area. We're kind of stumbling into the fact that we might need to shop for 2 or 3 really solid commanding centre-backs. And that's a big issue. And there's lots of big issues throughout this team. But centre-back, we're kind of sleeping or walking into a situation that's quite drastic.
Well, if you look at it, and John Souttar's one I'd like to keep. I like him as a player anyway, but for the European quota, I think you need Scottish players in your squad. So I'd like to keep him for that. The young boy Enciala I'd like to keep as well, because I think there's a lot of potential there. And if I'm being 100% honest about the back line in general, Stevie, it just needs, we need a new defence. James Tavernier's not getting, any younger. Dujon Sterling I'd probably like to keep if he can prove his fitness at all. When he's been here 2 years and he's not been able to do that. Yefty, I like going forward, but his numbers are not great actually in terms of, a return for his forward play. Ridvan Yilmaz, I'm not a massive fan of, I've got to be honest, and there's no personal take it. It's just, I just don't think he's good enough. And if you look at it, along with perhaps needing another goalkeeper, we are looking at, we could be looking come next August at an entirely new back five, if you're being brutal about it, because I'll keep saying this, Stevie, that if you're going to be a Rangers defender and a Rangers goalkeeper, if you want to win the league, then you're looking at losing no more than 20 to 25 goals a season in the league. That's what you should be expecting. That's when you look back in our better sides over the years. You don't want to be losing any more than 25 goals in the league, Stevie, because if you do, you'll start dropping points. And it is an issue. The centre-half situation, we're far too soft. We're just so easy to be bullied and played, to play against, and it needs fixed, mate. It is that simple. We've seen it over the last few weeks. Teams scoring 2 and 3 against us all the time. So it needs addressed.
Yeah, it does. Let's move on slightly away from the players and onto the manager, Barry Ferguson. I thought he was really good post-match on Saturday. Once again, not afraid to change things during the game. I thought he was right to start with the 3 at the back because it had worked previously. He obviously realised we are at this moment in time very soft-centred, and he's trying to 3 at the back, 3 central midfielders. I'm not sure why that went so badly wrong on Saturday with regards to the midfield. I thought Diomande, Barron and Raskin were miles off it. And they seemed to be firing the ball at each other as well, and they weren't there like they normally are. There was no control. We lacked a complete control of possession and that game and tempo. It was like pinball at times, Kenny. He said in his comments, and this is why I keep looking down, folks, because I've got obviously notes and things like that written down, just in case anybody's... I don't want to appear rude to you, Kenny. I'm very much listening, but I'm also paying attention to my notes.
I'm used to it, mate. Come on.
So he said that he was pleased with the win, but parts of the performance were way, way off. And we can't be happy with that performance, especially the first half, which was miles away from the standards we expect. I believe thoroughly that Barry Ferguson's carrying himself really, really well as our manager, considering the position that he was put in, considering the hand he was dealt, and the way that the club was when he arrived. Put himself on the line as a legend of the club, footballing wise. 15 titles under his name. He potentially would come back and tarnish his legacy by getting put out by Fenerbahce, getting beat by Celtic, Motherwell game, etc. I think he's handling this whole situation superbly well, and I thought his post-match was very honest. There was no waffle in there. Very honest to the point where we can listen to him and understand it because he's speaking like a fan would, and how we kind of would measure the game as well. So really enjoying listening to him.
It's his honesty, Stevie, and he is like one of us. That's part of it. He is a fan, and he wants to see Rangers do well. But what I like more about him was that, see, over the last few years, Stevie, whether it was, and I'll have to perhaps Gio, Michael Beale, and the previous manager Philip Clement. I'm not sure any of those three would have got that result on Saturday for a start. But if it was Philip Clement, he would have been telling us something utterly alien to us at the end of it, and tell us what a wonderful game it was, and how wonderful we were, and at least Barry's being honest, Stevie, and he's not pretending that he's not sugarcoating it. He's not, trying to BS us in any way. I just feel that at this minute in time, that the players are responding to him. The reaction, and I think he got a bit of the hairdryer. They got a little bit of the hairdryer treatment at half time, according to Cyriel Dessers, and at least they're responding to that, because if you look at the squad over the last wee while, Stevie, they don't respond particularly well to certain people, and at least they're responding to Barry Ferguson. That we know, you and I have discussed this personally, but we know this squad's got serious limitations, mate. They have, and I heard you this morning on the Rangers review, and you were saying that performances like this will probably persist, and being 2 goals down at times and stuff like that will probably persist with a squad, because it's what they do and it's what they've done over a period of time. The only thing I could say is that I am absolutely delighted with the way that the players are reacting to Barry, and I am appreciating Barry Ferguson's honesty and his ability to change a game, whether it be slight tweaks here and there, I beg your pardon, or just a total change of formation, which he's been doing quite a lot in games, and he's managing to get reactions out of these players, and that I've got nothing but praise for him. I've seen the comment there, whether he gets the job or not, I'm not quite sure. I'm not particularly convinced he will, because I just feel that if it is new owners coming in, they will have their own thoughts and ideas about where they want the club to go, and they'll be looking at a fresh start. So I'm not convinced he will, but he is, and he's got to be in the frame for it. He's got to be in the book to get considered for it anyway, mate.
I would say that a reason I bring Scott's comment back up, will he be offered the job? I think no, if we weren't getting new owners, it would be possible. Here's a chain of thought that I've been coming to and thinking about. Before we go on, I'm not saying that Barry Ferguson should get the job. I'm a big fan of Barry Ferguson, and I think that I need to look at it as logically as I can. But here's a conundrum that the new owners might have. The new owners come in and say, we want a big name coach, stroke manager. And they go and get him, and we end up in the same position we have been under Clement, Van Bronckhorst, Michael Beale, anybody you want to go back and look at. They will get criticism because people will suddenly say, you had the guy there that had all the things we were looking for. Why not give him a chance? And what I think, and this just in conversation today, I wonder if they would look at it and go, well, what's the harm in giving Barry Ferguson a year contract and looking at it? Because if it goes wrong, we will go and bring in that big manager that we want to bring in. But if we bring in a big manager and it goes wrong, we're already starting off on the wrong foot. Nobody's really going to go after them. And it all depends on what Barry does. So I'm not saying, first of all, giving him it right now is completely out of the question for me. We've got time, take your time. But Barry does well in the closing kind of weeks, and he shows us more that we can think, right, okay, this might be worth. Then I think they might start to subscribe to the fact that maybe we'll do it this way. Because I think if they went and got a big manager and he fails, I think that would be really difficult already for a new takeover, and they're not maybe wanting that big decision on their mind. So that's only a chain of thought I had, Kenny. It may be absolutely nonsense, but I think at the moment in time, he's not, there's no rush to give him it. If we give him the management job now and he loses to Celtic and he loses 3 out of the last 4 games after the split and stuff, people will then be on his back saying, why have you given it to him? We can give him time before having to make that decision would be something that I would subscribe to at this very moment in time. And again, I'm not saying to give him it, especially not at this moment in time, but in the Barry Ferguson conversation, I think we've got time on our side before we make any big decisions.
Well, I'd instantly say if he gets past this Europa League quarter-final against what is a cracking outfit in Bilbao, if he managed to get past that and he beat Celtic again after the split, Stevie, it's as long as the results are good along the way, then they will have a proper decision to make come the summer. But you're right, there is no rush to make any decision. Let's just see where and what he does over the period he's given. What is it? This is coming up to April tomorrow, isn't it? So, he's got a couple of months left, mate. Let's see how he does. And but all I can say is that at this point, when you look at the squad, we are miles off it in terms of the squad. But has he got a reaction out of this squad? I think he probably has, because last 2 performances up at Dundee prior to Saturday night were 2 draws. He's managed to find a way from 3-1 down to get a win. Going to Celtic Park and winning. These are all great things. Knocking Fenerbahce out. You can't deny that these are good. Good results. Maybe perhaps the Dundee game on Saturday wasn't a good performance, but he's getting results. But you have, Andy's saying that you made a good point. You actually have made a good point there, that perhaps a year's rolling contract or something like that, if he does well from here to the end of the season, might not be a bad shout, mate. But I personally just have this funny feeling, and it's not underrated. I know nothing. I don't have any knowledge at all. I just have this feeling that with new owners, they might well have their mindset elsewhere, but who knows?
Okay, Kenny, I think we're kind of done in the things we wanted to discuss, but there's been a few questions that I've highlighted throughout the show, which I would like to have a wee look at them. One here from Jason. Hi, lads. Do you think if Leeds don't go up to the PL, it will affect our deal? I won't answer this because I've looked into this and I've obviously been concerned. And as soon as it got mentioned, by the way, Leeds have got really quite shit and started throwing away more points than we do. And it's just like one of these things where, it's like ultimate Rangers, isn't it? Because as soon as we get linked with something, if something would scupper it, then exactly what that's going to happen. So I spoke to some leading journalists in this from down south, close to the American side of it. And I asked for their opinion. The answer back was given to me. EFL's strange rule prevents its club from buying controlling stakes in Scottish club as it treats them as domestic. It's been a sticking point for some other clubs previously. Marathi inquired about it, but the rule will almost 100% certainly be scrapped at the EFL's AGM in June. This deal would not be as far down the line if there was any overriding concern. Andrew Kavanagh's emergence as a strong player in this takeover means there are several ways round this if it was ever an issue. So none of us know for sure. I think that's fair to say. But I think that was worthwhile answering that question. We have spoke about this before online, on X and on things. I don't think this deal hinges on Leeds in the slightest. There's no way we would now be sitting, according to last reports that Chris Jack said, and Chris is close to this as well, that we're now sitting at lawyer stages looking over proposals. That's not happening if everybody's sitting going, Leeds need to go up. That's not the case. We would be waiting. This takeover would not be at the stages it is. Kenny, what's your thoughts?
100% concur with you. Just going from what I've read and what I've looked into myself, this will happen. You don't get this far down the line, and I think what people maybe need to understand is when you get to the due diligence stage, it's done. It's just the legalities that need to be looked into, and a quick look over the books that Sportsology that have been there for months will have been helping sort certain things out with that. And it's, I understand people's concern because our media's got a way of turning any positive for Rangers into negative, and we know that. So, it's just what they do. But I don't think it will be anything at all. I don't think there's anything in whatsoever. And for what it's worth, I do happen to think that Leeds are, for all that their bottles crashing right at this very minute, mate, I think they'll get their act together because they are a right good outfit. And I think they're the type of team, strangely, that I know they went up a few seasons back and only lasted a couple of seasons and went back down. I think that the squad of players they have at this minute in time, they're the type of side that will go up and will finish mid-table Premier League first season. I think they, a little bit like what Nottingham Forest have done, and I think they'll progress. But I have no concerns about it, but I do understand people worrying about it because of our media. Our media's get very quick to throw a spanner in our works, mate. So it is what it is, but I don't think so.
I can understand why people are asking. I understand why people might be a wee bit have reservations over it as well, because everybody wants this to go through, don't they? I mean, we're all desperate for it. This football club, and I will continue to say it, needs a shot in the arm. It needs an adrenaline rush. We all need something to get behind. We need positivity. We need freshness. We need new ideas. This board that spoke about it themselves, they are tired. They have investor fatigue. We need people that believe in this football club again, that believe that we can be number one. It seems a long way at this moment in time, but anything can happen in football. I've seen Rangers win leagues by 20 plus points and then the following season lose them by just as many. And that happened, under, Martin O'Neill when he came in under Dick Advocaat. And we were runaway winners, Kenny. You will remember how good our football was those years. And then all of a sudden, Martin O'Neill came in £20 million later and we were 25 points behind. Football is never as big as you would think it is. But it brings me to Raymond's made that point there. Can't see mega money coming in due to financial fair play. There is lots of ways around that, and Dado's makes point as well that you could use sponsorship in Ibrox, naming rights, sponsor everything. If they want money in, they will find ways to do it. They will sponsor whatever they can. They will do things. Deals will be wrapped up. But this brings me to the other question that we're asked. Stevino asks, can I ask the lads on their thoughts about challenging next year for the league, even with the takeover? I think the rebuild is enormous. I'm not feeling it. I'm going to put this another way, Kenny, and here's my thoughts on it. Put Celtic away at the side, right? Put them away at the side right now. Concentrate on beating the other teams in the league, which we haven't done consistently. Your Motherwells, your St Mirrens, and all due respect to them, they've done really well against us. That's our concern at this moment in time. See if you get that right, your away trips to Pittodrie, your away trips to Motherwell, your away trips to St Mirren. If you can get that right, the rest of it will take care of itself, because in an Old Firm game, as we proved this season, and I think the squad's mile off, I really do, we can beat them, and we'll beat them the last twice. The last 3 games, we've scored 9 goals against them, 3 in each game. I don't think they're as far away as everybody. And by the way, they're quite clear of us at this moment in time, but I don't think it's a chasm that everybody expects it to be. And our issue this season is we could end up beating them 3 times in the league and still lose it by 10 plus points. And that's what our biggest issue has been. Forget about them. Put them away at the side. Don't need to worry about them. Not a problem. Let's worry about ourselves. Fix the profile of the squad. Fix the attributes of the squad, the physicality, things like that. Get the key positions right. Make key signings. You don't need to spend £50 million. None of us are expecting that. In the last 3-4 summers, we've spent between 15 and 20 million each time. There's people that can be sold this summer. We do have assets. There's heavy interest in Raskin. There'll be interest in Dessers. There will be interest in even the smaller guys like your Ben Davises, your Jose Cifuentes, your Kieran Dowells. These guys will all be available for £1, £2, £3 million. And those little £1, £2, £3 million will make up money that we can then go and try and spend. So your likes of Hadjis and stuff will leave and wages will come down also. There's a lot of play to have with that squad, as well as still expecting to spend similarly to what we have done the last few summers. If that then changes with big sponsorship deals and different commercial stuff, you'll have more room. But we don't need to spend, we don't need to spend, in my opinion, 15 million to be better than everybody else in the league. And that's not disrespectful. As I said, put Celtic away at the side. But everybody else, Kenny, we should be aiming to have a team that's better than everybody else and getting that consistency throughout the league. And then you never know what can happen.
Stevie, you're absolutely right. And I've been saying this for ever since the Bonnet turned up over there and they started getting their act together. Our league has become, since that happened. Now, I know we've had our troubles at times and stuff like that, but in general, this is a league that I have said this, but with the budgets that Rangers and Celtic both have, all you have to do in our league is be considerably better than the other 10 teams in our league. And with the budget, it shouldn't be a hard thing to do. Our issue the last couple of seasons has been signing players that either aren't good enough or the wrong players for our league, or whatever way you wanted to put it, in my opinion anyway. But if you get a team and a squad of players designed to play in Scotland with our budget, you will be considerably better than all those other 10 teams. And then it becomes a league with literally 4 cup finals, because if you can get, if you can get to a point where you're as consistent as the team across the city as Celtic are in domestic football, then you're going to challenge, guaranteed. And we have already proven this season that the gulf between the two starting 11s isn't massive at all. There isn't a gulf there. It's our consistency and it's our depth of squad that's the issue. And if you can, the boy saying he wasn't feeling it in the original question, well, I would look at it and say we won the league by 25 points 3 seasons ago, and then I think we lost it by, was it 18 or something like that the season after? I can't remember exactly, but the change, the gulf and the shift was enormous, and it can change very, very quickly. And I've already got a feeling, and I'm going to kind of deviate very slightly. I've already got a feeling that a lot of clubs domestically are beginning to get a handle on Brendan Rodgers and the way he plays again. And if you can remember his last year when he was at Celtic, teams began to figure out how to play Celtic. Now, they were still winning the majority of their games, but there was teams beginning to get a proper handle on how they played. And I've got a funny feeling that the next season, if we can get, as you say, the 2 centre-halves that you need for Scottish football, you can get a tweak here and there, a left-back perhaps that's more physically, needed, and 4 or 5, maybe 6 extra players to add to the depth, with some of them, the likes of Ben Davies or Kieran Dowell leaving. If you can get a better players, and that's exactly what you're saying there, the mentality is where we are weak. And I think that's because we know that you're going up to Dundee and it's a hard game. Well, they're not going up to Dundee thinking it's a hard game. They're going up there just to put them with the sword. And that's where our mentality shift has to come. And I do think that a more physical side with the same amount of talent doesn't have an issue with that, mate. So I think you could easily challenge next year. I don't think we're that far away. I think that our issue has been that absolute, with excuse my French, but the shit show at times when you're going away from home, for talking sake, at the start of the season, and then all of a sudden you get that right and you can't win at home. That's our issue. You know, that we are that inconsistent, and that does, as the lad just said there, it is entirely down to a mentality that perhaps isn't strong enough. And I don't know if it's just a squad, mate. I think that's just from top down at the football club.
Right, nice way to end it, I think. Thank you, everybody, for your comments and questions. We have 700 odd people watching, flabbergasted. We'll put this up as we normally do. This would have been normally our Monday night pod anyway, but you guys asked for it to go live. You wanted this kind of opportunity. We'll do these more regularly. I hope you enjoyed it. Andrew, as I said, apologies from Andrew. He is ill this evening. And we'll see who we can get on to join us in the coming weeks as well. So thanks everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube and when you watch back, it really helps us if you subscribe. We're trying to do some good things which will be available to you all to watch and listen to for free. You can listen to them on all kind of podcast sites as well. If you want to do Spotify, out walking the dog, you prefer listen, we're on Spotify, Apple, everywhere. Good Pods, Podbean, all these kind of places. It goes out to all sorts of weird and fanciful places. You want to listen to us, you can. People have got things they want to discuss. Please get in contact with us and we'll take questions and we'll do all that kind of stuff. Big thank you, Kenny, for joining us. Much appreciated.
Enjoyed that, mate. Thank you.
And also thanks to everybody for your comments as well. Rhino Express, Clyde View Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, and our partners Black Rooster and Air Gold. Can't do this without your help. You guys mean your support mean that we can sponsor the football club, we can do advertising, we can bring documentaries. We're making our next one, which should be interesting, about Helicopter Sunday. So a fans view on that, which should be fun. And we're going to try and bring more things to you. The more likes and subscribes we get, the more we can go to the club and say, there's a demand for things. Could we speak to XYZ, etc.? So we'll keep trying to do that. Had a lot of fun doing it. Not sure about this one, Kenny. Lots of sense being spoken, but we appreciate it, Jason, anyway. Much appreciated. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. Much appreciated. Here's to a good week. We'll be back during the week as well, back at the end of the week, and then full coverage of Hibs game as well at Ibrox on Saturday. Thank you as well to everybody that watched the matchday vlog of the women's game yesterday. I had popped along and just watched that. Done a wee 10-minute vlog on that for those that tuned in. I really appreciate that. Well done to the women. League Cup winners last week with a 5-0 win over Hibs, and then to beat Hearts 4-0. It maybe seems like it should be an easy result, but Hearts have beaten Celtic and Glasgow City in things this year. So that's a really exciting end to the table. Rangers are currently second, 2 behind Hibs, a point clear of Glasgow City. I think 4 or 5 clear of Celtic, I think. And
it's 6 now, isn't it?
What's that?
I think it's 6 clear of Celtic now, I think.
Oh, is it? But see, the thing is, they all play each other 2 or 3 times now. So there's so much more to play. The Rangers, when they come back, I've got Hibs, Glasgow City and Celtic within a week. So this table could change, but we'll keep an eye on it. We'll try and do some coverage. We'll maybe try and speak to the manager and things at times and bring you that as well. So hope you've all enjoyed it, folks. I've rabbited on. So has Kenny. We've enjoyed it thoroughly. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining us. Have a good night and have a great week.
The Full Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.